Hello everybody and welcome back to my second episode of this knitting podcast. My name is Irma and I live in the Netherlands and I have my own hand dyeing business, and this week I want to share with you some of my finished objects. I want to tell you my works in progress and I have some future knitting plans. Also, I want to tell you a little bit about Bergen Skrikkenfestival where I've been last week, and I don't know if it will be a separate part or if I'll just ramble on about it in between the projects I want to show you. So first, my finished objects. September has finished, so I also finished my September socks. Last week it was a work in progress, and this week, today, it's a finished object. It's the scatterby sock pattern. It's free on Ravelry and it's a pattern by Amy Stringer. And yeah, I like the colors. The yarn I used was red sock, blue socks, sock adventures. Oh, I should write it down. I will post it underneath on the screen. I like the yarn. It's quite obvious that one of the socks is a lot darker than the other ones. I don't mind. It can happen when you dye a skein that some parts get more color than the other parts, so I should just do with it. Last week I talked about socks toe up or cuff down, and those were toe up just because I wanted to use most of my yarn, which I didn't because it was a really big skein of yarn and my socks would go up until my knee if I had finished the whole sock. So after all, I didn't mind if I would have done cuff down, but that was my intention, to use up all the yarn. So I started at the toe, and I like the finish of a toe up sock because you have a really nice starting point which is quite invisible. But what I don't like about toe up socks is that you get a cuff that is a little bit flary when you use a stretchy bind off, which I need because otherwise I can't put them over my feet, so I need a stretchy bind off. But I don't like the look of this, and maybe I should try a different stretchy bind off. I think this one was knit 2, and then knit those two together through the back loop, I think, and then you knit 1, knit 2 together through the back loop, and that's how you get a stretchy bind off. And it's not really stretchy, as more wider than your cuff is, so that's why it's standing out, and I don't like the look of that. When you wear them you don't see it, but when you have them not wearing, just lying around, you have this, and I hate it. So my next pair of socks will be cuffed down again. If you have a solution for this effect, so a stretchy bind off that doesn't give you this flare, please tell me, because I do like toe up socks, only I don't like the edge of the cuff. So, oh, you can see, I think you already saw, but the scatterby pattern has like a texture in the front of the sock and also at the back on the leg, but the bottom of your foot is just stockinette because it doesn't walk nice when you have a texture on the bottom of your foot. And the texture is made with slipped stitches, and it's a free pattern, so when you want to know how they do it, just download better in Ravelry. That was my first finished object. My second finished object of this week is a project I started last week because I wanted something to knit in Bergen and I wanted it to be mindless. And the airport security in Holland is quite strict, so I didn't want to risk taking my metal needles with me. So I started a project on my wooden interchangeable needles. I think they're Knit Pro needles, and they are much cheaper than my metal circular needles. So when I want to take a risk, I thought, well, then I take the risk with my wooden needles, and I thought that maybe the wooden needles would be easier to take with me in my carry-on luggage. So that's why I started a new project. It was a hat, and I finished it before our landing back home. So I knit this in 3 days, maybe. And I was with my husband there, so it wasn't all knitting time, it was also fun and enjoying each other. So I think I did a good job. This is the hat I made. And when you saw the previous episode, you can recognize the yarn. It was the gradient I dyed myself, and I really wanted to use them in the same project. And what I did, I held the yarn double, and before I changed to the next color, I took one strand of the old color and one strand of the new color, and I did it throughout the whole head. I didn't use a pattern, I just casted on the stitches I would think that fit over my head. I did some ribbing, and I started decreasing when I was at the second last color, I think. And I did it on 4 points, so you get like the, I don't know, oh, it's blowing out the camera. You get lines to the top of the head, and then I bound off. I'm not really a good head person, but I'll show it to you. It does fit. It's a little bit wider at the back here. I have a little bit more room. It does fit my husband, and he doesn't have the extra space. He has a really big head, so the ribbing is flexible enough to fit even larger heads, and I have space to fit over a large head. So this is how it worked out. I'm taking it off because I look ridiculous with a head on, and I don't know if I'm gonna use it, or maybe if my husband is gonna use it, but it was a nice knit, and I now know how this yarn works up. It's non-superwash. It's 100% British wool, and it's different breeds. So it's for me it's soft enough to have in a head, because I can get irritation of wool on my head, but it's soft enough for me to wear, so that's nice. And those were the only 2 finished objects I have this week. So I now want to show you my works in progress. Just fixing my hair. Works in progress. Last week I was knitting on the Evja mittens by Skeindeer knits, and I was halfway through the first mitten, and now I finished the first mitten, and it fits my hand quite good. Maybe next time I want to make it a little bit more space at my fingers, but I think it's fitting pretty good. One thing, and I don't know how it happened, but I haven't blocked them yet, so you can see, is that at the top part I knit it way tighter than at the bottom part. And I used the same needles, I used the same yarn, I used everything the same. And still this was way tighter than this. I don't know what happened, but I think it will block out. It's not like really wonky or something. I really like the colors, they're for my mom, and the picking up of the stitches at the thumb I'm really happy with. I make the pattern continue on the thumb. It's also written in the pattern to continue the pattern on the thumb, only really strange, the way it was written in the pattern was different than what I had to do. If I had followed the pattern, I would end up with a jump in the pattern over here. And I don't know why, because when I was looking at the pattern I was thinking this should work, it should fit, and when I was doing it, it ended up differently. So I just did what felt right, and now I think I have a really nice going over of the mitten itself to the thumb, almost invisible. I really like it. And there is a detail on the thumb as well, which is quite nice. I think it's like a flower. I really like it. So this is one mitten, and it's a work in progress, so that means I haven't finished the second mitten. It's nearly done though. I think this night I will be able to finish it. So I only have to do the last piece up here with the decreases, and I have to fit in the thumb. It's on scrap yarn. Normally I use like a really large safety pin, I think you call it, but I lost mine as I lose everything. So maybe I will find it again, maybe not, then I have to buy new ones. But yeah, I really like working on these, and I really want to start the third pattern, the second mystery pattern, the third pattern of this club, and that's why I really want to finish this. I was talking about giving this for Christmas to my mom, but as the weather is getting colder, especially in the mornings, I think I will give them a little bit early, because I prefer to give something someone can use as much as possible than just wait for that moment of Christmas and having it lying around for 2 months when it's already cold enough in the mornings to wear them. So I prefer to give them away a little bit early. You can see I only have to knit like a really small piece in the thumb to finish. And I didn't have a problem with the tighter knitting at the top of this one, luckily, because I really don't know what happened. But yeah, I like it. The yarn I use is Navia Duo in 2 colors, a light brownish color and a dark brownish color. They only have numbers, they don't give their colors names, and I like working with it. It's really strange. When I was buying it, I already noticed, I don't know if you can see, and I think the dark one is too dark to show. Oof. The dark one looks thicker than the light color. I don't know why. Maybe it has to do with the dyeing or the sheep they used. I don't know. They knit up really okay together. You can't see it when you're knitting with it, but when you look at the threads themselves, it looks like the dark one is a little bit thicker than the other. The pattern is written for a DK weight, but I didn't have DK weight when I started this pattern, so I took the evja Duo, which is, I think it's a heavy fingering to sport weight. It's not as thin as some fingering yarns I have seen. It's a little bit thicker, and because it's a non-superwash pure wool, it fluffs up quite some when you work with it. So you have quite a wide range of gauges you can knit it in, and it doesn't give gaps. When you use superwash and you knit in a really loose gauge, you get like little holes in between your knitting, and when you do color work that isn't that pretty, but because it's the 100% wool non-superwash, you can't see it. You can't see holes in this fabric. Of course, when I stretch it a lot, you will get holes, but I think it's quite okay. And when I'm wearing it, you don't see my hand showing through the mitten, and it will be warm enough for the weather we have here in Holland. So that was my first work in progress. I don't have that many works in progress I have worked on the last few weeks. I'm not gonna show everything I showed you last time when I haven't done work on it. So I haven't worked on my Malfoy Manor wrapper, so I won't show you. I haven't worked on my Sedestal sweater for my husband, so I won't show you. The only thing I did a little bit of work on was my memories blanket. And let me see, this is my memories blanket. Last time I showed you, I'm not gonna show it every time, but for now it's nice to show you a little bit more than just one mitten. Last time I just started this gray square. And I finished the gray square, and I just started this square. You can't really see a lot of it yet, and this square I'm knitting out of this yarn I dyed myself. It's with orange and brownish colors in it, and it's a superwash merino sport weight, and it's really soft. I'm not sure if they should call this sport weight. I think it's more fingering weight, but sometimes those ranges are so close that it doesn't really matter how you call it, as long as you know what you can make with it. So that is my memories blanket. Then we go up to future knitting, and my future knitting is a little bit the same as last time for some parts, but one thing is something I haven't talked about last week, and it's a new sock. I like to have a sock on the go, so I'm going to start a new sock. I picked a yarn already I'm going to use. The theme of the knit-along I'm joining, the knit-along of the grocery girls, is neon, but I don't have neon yarn in my stash, so I just picked another skein, and I will just enter once instead of twice. The skeinin of this yarn went really bad, but forgive me for that. This is the yarn I'm going to use. It's a yarn by Lana Grossa, and they call it Magico 2, I think. and they only give numbers to their colors. And oh, excuse me. And this color is called 3527. And it was really fun when I picked the ball up. I thought it was like this with the purple and the green and the blue, and it was okay, not really flashy or something, but it was okay. And when I was winding it, I noticed that there were also browns and pinks in the ball as well, so that was a nice surprise. I don't know the pattern yet I'm going to use, because it's a quite long color repeat. Maybe something with a lacy pattern in it, or with a little bit of texture. I have a lot of vanilla socks and I would like a little bit of variation in my sock drawer. So I think something with a texture or a little bit lace, and I think I will pick a pattern this afternoon on Ravelry and we will see what it will become. The other future knitting I talked about with you last time, and it was the shawl with all the sheep on it, and that's this pattern. And I also told you that I would love to pick up the yarn in Bergen when I was at the Skrikkenfestival, and I managed to do so. So I will show you the yarn I'm going to use. The pattern doesn't really have a name. I call it the sheep shawl, and I think I will keep calling it that. But it's a pattern in the book Euland Knitting, Euland Breien. Breien is Dutch for knitting. And in this book she has a lot of patterns inspired by the island Euland. And one of those patterns is the shawl with the sheep on it. Only there's not really a name for the shawl, it's just a shawl pattern, and you have different options to put on the shawl. And one of the patterns is like the full inspiration of the island, which is really nice, but I'm only going to use the sheeps. I really like the festival. One thing I wanted in the yarn I was looking for, well, two things. One was it had to be non-superwash 100% wool, because it's a color work pattern and I think color work works best in non-superwash woolen yarn. And the other thing was that I would like that it's Norwegian yarn, because I bought it in Norway and it felt strange to buy UK or American yarn in Norway. That didn't feel like a thing I should do. So I really wanted Norwegian yarn, 100% wool, non-superwash. And there was one stand really appealing me, and it's because I already heard of the brand. It was Hillesvorp. Fabriek. Fabriek. I'm not Norwegian. I shouldn't pronounce this. You can read it. And they really had a lot of colors. The only issue I had is that what I like about the shawl is that the background is changing color while the pattern stays the same color. And they didn't have variegated skeins. So I looked a little bit around. There were some hand dyers using the same base as they do. but I couldn't really find what I was looking for, or when there was a variegated yarn I liked, they didn't have enough skeins of it. So I changed my mind and I was like, I'm going to make my own gradient in the background. Just striping the yarn, and I will get a changing color background, and I will keep the main color of the pattern just in one color. So what I had to do was choose. I needed 500 grams for the background, so I thought, well, it's easy to take 5 colors when you need 500 grams. So I took 5 colors, and I was looking for not really gradient, but colors that match with each other when you stripe them. And this is what I ended up with. One of those skeins is a hand-dyed yarn by Arctic Yarns, and because it's the same base as the other skeins, they match really well, and it gives the shawl a little bit more color, because the colors of Hillersvork themselves are really beautiful but subtle, and I really wanted a little bit more pop in at least one color, so I chose one color dyed by Arctic Yarns, and these are the colors for the background. And I think you can see that the pink one is the one from Arctic Yarns, and the other 4 are from Hillersvork themselves. The red one, I really fell for the dark reds. I really liked the combination with the pink. They didn't have it at the festival, but luckily the fabric was not too far away, and we were on the festival on Sunday, and they told us that the fabric would be open on Monday. So when we went home to our airplane, we made a little detour, and we first visited the fabric and got the red skein that was missing at the festival. And I already had plans to go there, so it was a nice excuse to visit that place. The main color isn't the same base, but it's really good to work with it together with the other base. This base is called Solia, and it's their thin base. It's a grayish undertone of the yarn, and it's like a thinner yarn. I think it's a little bit thicker than fingering, so maybe you should call it sport weight, but I think you can knit it at the fingering gauge as well as a sport weight gauge. It's just your choice of gauge that makes it one or the other. The color I chose with it for the sheep is this one, and it's not the same base. This base is called Vilje, and the difference is that this is lamb's wool and this is a pels wool, and this one it's a natural color, and this one is the grey color that's dyed. So the base of the color isn't the natural color of the yarn isn't the same, but they match really well together. And on the label they also say it's really good to combine it with solja. So it's not the same, but similar enough to make one scarf out of it. And when I was walking around with a bag full of yarn and I came home and I could do like this, I have never bought this much yarn at once. And I know for some this is nothing, but for me this is really a lot of yarn to buy at once. And I'm really happy with it. And I really want to start the scarf, the shawl, and I think that I will start this weekend. I think first finish my mittens and then maybe the scarf. I'm breaking a little bit of my own rule, just one big project for myself at a time, but I think a scarf is really different than a garment to knit, so just to make it right for myself to start it, I think I will start this weekend, just because I couldn't lay this away and let it get dusty and stuff, so I think I will just start knitting with it this weekend, and I'm really happy with it. And it's pure wool, but it's really soft enough to wear next to skin. It's really nice. So I think that's my future knitting. The other future knitting I have, I told you last week, was the Ginny's cardigan or owl cardigan, and I will really start that one as well, but only after I've finished my Malfoy Manor wrapper, and because I haven't worked on that one, I don't start the other one yet, so it's still on the waiting list, and someday I will start it. Okay, about a little bit more about the festival. It was at the Tricotage Museum. I don't know if I pronounce the Norwegian words right, I just say it how I think it sounded, and you'll have to do with it. The Tricotage Museum. It's a museum where it was a fabric, no, not a fabric, it was a, I think I said fabric earlier in the episode as well. It's a factory. And I say fabric because the Dutch word for factory is fabriek. And the Norwegian word for factory is also fabriek. So that's a little bit confusing. The factory where the museum is located in the factory. And the factory produced the yarn, so it spun the yarn and it knitted the yarn. And it's also, when you have like a sweater or something that needed the seam, they also did it over there in the factory. So it was quite a big place for workers to work in the day it was still at use. And we were allowed at the place where they carded the wool, and we could see the place where the wool was spun, and we could see the place where the spun wool was placed on cones, and we were able to see the place where the knitting machines were, which was really fun. I have a knitting machine myself. I'm not really good at using it yet, I'm still learning, but it was really fun to see what the possibilities are with just a straight knitting machine. And we met a Scottish woman there, and she said, oh, how nice you have a knitting machine, I really used it a lot, but I knitted so much that no one wanted to knitwear anymore, so she had to stop using it. But she could tell me a little bit more than I knew, so she also told me that it is possible to have a ribber on your machine, which makes it possible to knit rib, but also to make it possible to knit in the round on a flat knitting machine. And that was something I was really interested in. So I think I will get it out again and try to make it work again and learn myself to knit neatly with it And when I manage that, maybe I will invest in a ribber, because it makes the possibility so much bigger and makes the effect of the knitted garment so much nicer, because when you can knit in the round, you can make sleeves without seams and bodies of sweaters without seams. You can even knit socks on your straight machine. So that's really something I'm interested in, and it was really fun to see the big knitting machines in the factory as well. So that was really, really fun and inspired me to do more knitting on my machine. It's a shame I didn't write down the name of this lovely lady, because it was really fun to talk with her. She lived near Inverness in Scotland, and I think that's a lovely place to live, and I think I will visit Scotland somewhere in the future. That's all I have to talk about this week. It's a little bit shorter, the episode, than last week, I think. But I hope you still enjoyed it. Let me know what you thought about it. I just want to say thank you to all the lovely comments on my last video. I really liked the comments and I really liked reading it. So thank you, and see you within 2 weeks. Bye!